What should we do?
All right.
I'm Michelle, the SPI.
And we're the
The Black Jackets. We should come up with a new team name every vlog. The Black Jackets.
This is sad already.
All right, cool. So welcome back, everyone. This is our first official evidence vlog. Hey, so I'm Michelle.
I'm Carl.
And I'm Connor.
And we are the SPI team.
Woo!
Spit.
Yeah. We're going to start talking about one particular night last weekend. So we had two ghost hunts last weekend on September 11th and September 12th. On September 12th, 2015, we had probably the most active night that I've had in several months. It was pretty cool. It started out with a very small group. For whatever reason, after the Labor Day weekend rush, we only had 8 people, I guess, signed up total, right? So we had this group with us, which enabled the 3 of us to stay together the entire night. We didn't split anybody up. We decided to investigate as a group of 11. And there was a definite energy in the air from the very beginning. Everybody was excited. I have an audio clip of Carl saying, tonight just feels different, man. It just feels like something could happen.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like so far tonight has had more of a sense of like possibility and potential than possibly the last couple months up here for me. Like it feels like stuff could like legit really start happening, you know?
Initially, we all gathered around Lucy's room. Lucy's room is the room that we get the most activity in. It's probably the room that we focus on the most.
It's my favorite. I would sit there all night if I had the option to, but guests
too.
get antsy sometimes. They want to see
I know,
other
and I'm
places.
like, guess why? Are you sure?
It makes sense.
This is where it's going on.
Well, it's
And
funny
so-
because like we're in that room, we're investigating, and we have a great night. We leave the room and we check our watches, and we'd been in there for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Like we lost like a big part of the ghost hunt to being in there because it was so active. So
Right.
And it was just such a variation of activity.
Oh, yeah.
It's stuff that I've never seen before in my investigations here.
Well, it
was
took
awesome.
me back. Connor will talk about it in a second, but we heard a lot of like breathy sounds over and over again. And it kind of made me realize that I don't know if I've actually heard sounds quite like that close to me since back on the days when I was on Ghost Hunters Academy. The first episode, we heard breathing in between me and a fellow investigator, and that was a really cool experience because it was my first ghost hunting experiences ever.
Ben, you just sighed, right? What? You just sighed, right? No? In and out? No. Seriously? Yes, I seriously did not sigh. At one point I heard a breath in, like through the nose, and then out. Really clear, really loud next to me.
And so last week really took me back to that, where I was like, wow, I don't know if I've actually heard breathing on investigation since then. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, true story.
The night started out with all of us gathering around Lucy's room. This is after we did the initial tour and introduction. Everybody knew the history. They knew how the equipment works. And we sat down and we covered the room with equipment. We had geophones, vibration detectors lining the floor. We had nice audio recorders running. We had a tri-field going. We had motion sensors, the whole shebang. So we're sitting there, and suddenly, within about the first 5 minutes, we hear a distinct breath between me and Steve, who came along with us that night. He was one of our guests. He is one of the co-managers of the Taps family team that I work with, and Steve was running real-time audio, and so he's sitting there listening with a nice recorder with supersonic hearing, and we hear this breath distinctly between the two of us. The entire group hears it, so we're like, who's this? What's going on?
That one first. And red is the gentlest wavelength of light. So that's why they use it in dark rooms, because it doesn't hurt your eyes or your night vision.
Did somebody just whisper while Carl was talking?
I heard that too.
I heard
Steve.
that.
I heard that.
Is there somebody in between you and Connor right now?
No.
Because it sounded like it came from right in between you guys. So that's why they use it in dark. They use.
And it was initially one of those things, as all great paranormal experiences are, where we're like, who was that? Convinced that it was a real person or somebody within the group.
Well, and y'all were sitting in very close proximity, so for it to be
Would have
between
been right
you
about here.
guys,
Yeah. So it was pretty impressive. And after that, the vibration detectors on the floor started going off. We mapped out throughout that 2.5 hour period 5 distinct times that the vibration detectors were making thuds on the carpeted floor
And can I point out too that that's rare.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen the vibration detectors go off at the Stanley, maybe twice.
So that happened a few times. That was bizarre. Another thing that happened was we essentially had another breath happen within the entire group. It sounded like it was coming from the center of the room. And I showed you guys that audio clip and I said, who just breathed out really loud, as if they were extremely exasperated. It was like somebody coming off of a marathon, just for 2 little breaths there. So we'll listen to that clip.
I think it's interesting that all this started happening like right after you said, "Oh, this is Lucy's MO." When we just start talking about other
Somebody
things.
just make a noise.
Are the wheezing again?
Was
Yeah.
it a breath?
Yeah.
I heard that too.
I heard
I
it
heard
too.
that.
It wasn't me. Like as I was talking.
No.
I heard it over by
sounded
you.
like
Yeah,
the
was
door.
that you, Steve?
I don't think so.
After you said, "Oh, this is Lucy's MO." When we just start talking about other
Somebody
things.
just make a noise.
Are the wheezing again?
Was
Yeah.
it
That was bizarre. Once again, the breath happened. And then, as we're all sitting there, people start to feel a little uneasy. This bizarre cold spot started moving around the room, felt by people on either ends. And then there was...
I haven't felt it,
Yeah, and you never
which is
feel
weird.
cold spots.
I don't think I've ever felt what I would call a legitimate cold spot.
And what was weird is I was right next to you and I was like, "Oh, it's right here." And so without you even telling me where it was, I could feel it too.
Yep, it was down by my knee, and couldn't explain it. Like, cold spots have to be significant for me to not just feel like it's a draft.
Right.
And that was one of the other starts.
It was so isolated. Like it was so strange.
It was bizarre. We started to run different theories as to who this might be. And we have this spirit who is a character that hopefully starts to appear more and more. We think there may be a child spirit in the concert hall. And we started to address this spirit as if they were a child. And I asked, hey, are there any teachers in the room? And usually there is. In a group of 8 or 9 people, there's somebody who's a nanny or a teacher.
But everyone just thought he was a psychic.
I know. It was
Like everyone,
the way he said it.
Yeah, everyone thought he was a psychic.
Like, it's humid in here, and this feels like a little like fresh spot. Like, I'm not gonna even say like a cold spot, but like
feeling up on you?
Is anybody in here a teacher?
Yes.
Yes.
I want you guys to talk.
Is there a teacher in the room?
Is there a
right
teacher
now?
in the room?
Uh-huh.
And I'm a teacher.
And so this very nice woman,
Regina.
started to talk to this child spirit, and it was in a very soothing voice. She told them that she taught science for 30 years, and she was here, and she was wondering if you could come out and show something through science. It would be amazing for her. She did a great job. She gave a little spiel.
If I
She
was a
was
spirit, I would have come out for it.
I know.
That was good.
And then immediately after that, Michelle is sitting on the opposite side of the room from Regina, and she says, Jacob, are you feeling a little uneasy? One of the guests' name was Jacob, and he was like, yes, like, I'm borderline freaking out right now, is what he said, which was bizarre. You were picking up on that.
Yeah, it was really strange. Like, for some reason, there was just something that kicked in my mind, and my focus was pulled to Jacob, and I just thought, there's something over there, which is weird, because that's not something that's, like, very common for me to experience, but I knew there was something going on over there, and so I just happened to ask Jacob, and he was like, yeah, I'm freaking out, and so it was kind of cool how we were kind of, like, in tune that night with each other.
Now, we're still talking about this 2-hour period that we spent in Lucy's room. After that, there was a thud on the table. The vibration sensor on the table went off, and then that entire half of the room started reporting a burned toast smell.
Did it close last night?
I think kind of like this time of year, it's been sticking pretty well. There's also a good hole in the wall right there. Did somebody do that?
I don't think so.
I'm getting a weird smell.
What smell?
I'm not
too.
sure.
I am too.
Good or bad?
Not
Ugly.
pleasant.
I mean, I'm not a good judge.
Oh, he can't smell.
Jacob had eggs over here. Does it smell like that? No.
I was getting like a toast smell around there.
Like burned?
A little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Sticking pretty well. There's also a good hole in the wall right there. Did somebody do that? Sticking pretty well. There's also a good hole in the wall right there. Did somebody do that?
Which is new.
Has that
That's
happened?
new.
I was gonna say,
I've
has
never
that
heard
happened
that.
before?
You get some weird smells for sure, but burned toast was definitely a new one.
Shortly after that, another thud happens on the carpet, one of the 5 that we heard there, and they were trying to debunk that thud when suddenly a breath comes loud and clear in between you two.
Boot on the
Ghost
chair.
mask.
Okay.
Is that?
Oh man.
Can you hear that?
Do it again. Like, no.
Because that's my boot on the chair.
Okay.
Was that you? That was like...
That was you.
I thought that was
No.
you.
I heard
Shut up!
No!
Oh my gosh.
On the chair.
Okay.
On the chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was so strange.
I mean, that's one of those. We both initially thought that it was each other, but something compelled Michelle to point it out. And then we all just sort of erupted in confusion of like, wait, I thought that was you. And she's like, no, I thought that was you.
See, and I kind of blew it off, like, haha, that was you, right? And he was like, no.
No.
And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden,
And there's a moment like when you know it's right, like you know where the sound comes from. And the cool thing was that we had Connor, we had Steve from Connor's team, Para FBI, and Michelle, and then myself. And the breath was right over there. And so it's one thing to sort of like wonder at the end of the day if maybe a guest might have not have fessed up to something. But this was like four of us that we all trust each other. We work together frequently.
right.
And there was just no explanation.
Well, and see, there was a breath that happened between Steve and Connor,
Yeah.
and then you and me. And, you know, we were sitting about this close. Lucy's room's pretty cramped. And so it's really weird that we would both hear it from right here because there's obviously no guests coming between our faces.
It was
you know?
bizarre. It was exasperated. It was kind of.
Yeah.
It was weird to recreate that. I've listened to
Yeah.
it so many times now.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what you guys think when you hear it. But right in between the two of you, and then I heard Carl in his freak out voice that I've only heard a handful of times.
Some of my freak out is my excited.
That
The
was
freak out's
about a foot
different,
away
like,
from me.
There's like
something like that.
What is
and
going
there's
on
like
in this room?
something's actually happening. I'm excited.
That was you.
I thought that was
No.
you.
I heard
Shut up!
Oh my gosh.
It was cool. So there was a good 45-minute period there where it appears as though there was a spirit who didn't want to reveal too much information about themselves,
Yeah.
but they were wandering around the room, creating cold spots, making these thuds on the floor, and then audibly breathing, and we could hear it.
Occasionally setting off the tri-field meter, which is interesting, so that's a very subtle EMF detector. At one point, we were seeing, there was a lot of things being seen, including, we all kind of moved around the room at one point to see if that would change the experiences, see if different people could start experiencing the things that people had been experiencing on other sides of the room. And that was when it kind of changed a little bit, but still on that same track, not very communicative.
Right.
Seeing a little bit of like weird kind of
It
lights.
was playful.
It was very playful.
Yeah.
And then the motion sensor
motion
went off
sensor.
in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But first, someone saw, was it Steve saw
Yeah.
like a white small light above Carl, who happened to be in front of the bathroom in Lucy's room.
Yep.
And then later, like 10 seconds later, this motion detector, which lights up whenever it detects motion, it flickered, which is weird because Connor explained how that's not really how the device is supposed to work.
I've been using that motion sensor for years, and it's nothing complicated. It's like a $10 little simple thing. It runs off an infrared sensor that sends a radius, and I know fairly where the radius sits. And what happens is something sets it off, and then it stays on for 30 seconds, and then it slowly fades out. It flashed brightly and then went back off. It was bizarre.
And then about like 5 seconds later, it just full on
And
lit
then it
up.
full on
And
went on.
what's really cool is earlier in the night, Regina, remember she had said, if you're here, can you light up the light in the bathroom?
Yeah, she did specifically
And
say
so,
that.
yeah, to the child. So that kind of further solidifies maybe it is one of these new spirits that isn't Lucy, Eddie, or Paul.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those things is it doesn't quite fit anybody's MO. A little bit with Lucy, but Lucy has some other things that she kind of does that are playful, more physical contact with people, more just kind of like flirty with different people.
Yeah.
Some of the devices she likes to use are the flashlights, and we didn't really get those going off at all.
No, which
the
is
entire
weird
night.
because it didn't go off at all. At all, all night.
Yeah. So it's very different experiences, not communicating, just having some fun. Doesn't really fit Eddie's vibe, doesn't really fit Lucy's vibe, and Paul tends to just be very brief in and out, using different devices as well. So it's one of those that we have to ask ourselves, was that someone that came up with the guess? Generally Lisa, she's very tapped in when it comes to the spirit sometimes in kind of a psychical way. And that comes through most clearly when it's the spirits that are with our guests on the hunt. And that night, she wasn't up here. So when we just have to go off of our personal experiences, we don't know if it was a guest spirit. We don't know if it's a new Stanley spirit. We don't know if it was just something that was very comfortable with our group. And so that's what the future sort of holds as the story develops. When we do have a night like that, as out of left field as it is from what's been happening recently, we then just have to try to recreate similar fun group settings and see if that spirit comes around again, and if we can now label them one of our Stanley spirits, and if so, learn about who they are.
Something I want to mention is when Jacob got his leg grabbed, he was sitting on the couch next to me, and he had I saw him move first. It was a momentary freak out, so that caused me to look, and I didn't realize something was grabbing his leg because he didn't say it until after. But what I did see is I could see, like, he was pulling his leg away, and I could see, like, resistance on his pants. It was very interesting. It was almost like an invisible force, as cheesy as that sounds.
I asked him about it later, and he said he felt 2 fingers pinch his jeans.
Yeah.
And then he
like jerked
back just to see who's doing
most people do that, like, first movement to kind of clarify the first
right. And he leapt across that couch, and he said that there was resistance that
My favorite part is that he cussed whenever, and then immediately, instead of being like, oh God, something grabbed my leg, he's like, sorry Mom, I just cussed, but something grabbed my leg.
It's funny. Everyone has their own different reactions to me.
Because I saw some dowsing
Oh Jesus.
interaction.
Sorry. Excuse me.
You're fine.
Holy shit. Oh my God, I'm sorry I just cussed on, but oh my God.
What happened?
Something just grabbed my leg. And I like tried to pull away because I thought it was just something, and it like kept pulling, like.
Oh my God.
So there was physical contact, there was audible noises, there was some motion being mapped around the room, and all of this was caught on audio. So we have 2 growing narratives that began last week when Michelle started here. So apparently she's spurring stuff up for us here. Now, the first narrative being, we don't know who this spirit was, who was coming across in Lucy's room. If it was somebody who was with a guest, if it's the child spirit we think might be in the concert hall, if it's somebody totally new. So maybe we'll find out this weekend and get some more answers in that regard.
I would love if they would come back.
I would hope so.
That was so much fun.
That was really fun. The other narrative that began last Friday, which is new to me, is Eddie being annoyed with me.
Yes, that was so great. Yes.
Yeah. Typically, Eddie gives me a bit of a hard time. We started off on the wrong foot together, but we've since gotten past that. But he likes to call me names. We joke around. But last week, then, Friday, was the first week it seemed like Eddie was giving Connor a hard time.
It was constant. Not only through... And I take dowsing rods with a pinch of salt, but we had guests holding dowsing rods, and you were holding them, and you're like, hey, point to Connor. Wherever I was in the building, they would shoot over. So that was interesting. And then we were like, what do you think of Connor? And we had Ovilus sessions.
The Ovilus was saying, like, you're ugly.
You're weird, you're annoying. And then
we said, who are you talking about? And it was like, you.
And then the second night, I said, do you think Connor is annoying? Yes.
Yeah, clear as day.
I think Eddie likes me. I mean, I don't think I've done anything to, like...
And then he called me a nerd a few times.
He said you
and
were
it's like,
goofy.
so I'm like walking up with like my 4 cases of equipment, and I'm like, okay, all right, I can see how I am the nerd, but that's okay.
We're all nerds.
That's your
I'm going to
title.
embrace that. I'm going to embrace it. So we'll see if Eddie likes me tonight. I guess.
Yeah.
That'd be so funny.
Funny.
Every week, call Connor annoying.
Dang it.
Who's annoying? Connor. You are.
You.
I'm trying.
Carl's really cool though now. So anyways, that's the ongoing narrative. September is a very busy month for us. We've got Fridays and Saturdays for the rest of this month. October slows down a little because it's a busy time for us and the hotel. But we plan to keep you guys updated as stuff happens the end of every weekend if it's going on. And like we said, like this was a significant one, so it's extra long, so we had a lot to talk about, and we're starting things off. But for the most part, I think this is really going to be a very exciting fall. You're going to see more from us. We're going to talk some theory. We're going to have some fun. So tune in to learn what happens this week and soon.
See you around.
That was perfect timing on that.
Weekend.
Right there.
We're out.
Soon.
Week.
And
soon.
soon.